Hello. Today, this video, well, you read the title, so the thumbnail, I'm gonna be talking about Roxy, more specifically her haters, why I don't really understand them. Firstly, I'd like to just give a quick overview on the character. Roxy is a roughly 15-16-year-old who is a character who was introduced in the 4th season of Winx Club. She was initially intended to be the 7th of the Winx. Roxy received a lot of mixed perceptions. Most seem to be excited at the idea of another Winx, as it worked out so well the first time. When Aisha first joined the club in season 2, clearly we knew that they were capable of handling introducing another girl, changing up the dynamic. Roxy also, when she was introduced, she was supposed to be the protege, almost like a little sister to Bloom, to sort of allow her to be a little bit of a Mary Sue, considering what the writing did to her in season 4 with her oh, everything is so great and violence isn't the answer, despite the fact that literally just the previous season ago she flung, incinerated a guy, Valtor. But other than that, Roxy did play her part really well. Now, on to the main topic of this video. Why Roxy haters confuse me. And I'm not just talking about those Winx Club fans that don't care for Roxy at all, that they just ignore her presence, but I am talking about those who absolutely despise Roxy and think that her involvement in even season 4 was a mistake, and that she was right to be excluded when the Nickelodeon co-sign deal with Rainbow was initiated for seasons 5 and 6.
Well, I want to go too. Sorry, Roxy. I want you to stay here. I need you to look after the people on the beach.
And that they're lucky, that they're happy that she ended up being reduced to a background placeholder character who occasionally got a line or two whenever they needed someone to fill a random spot for the sake of fulfilling one of the other girls' plot lines. And I have yet to see an argument from them that makes sense, that isn't just an assumption. They say things like 7 girls would be too much, but we've seen them handle 7 Winx really well in both season 4 with Roxy herself and season 6 with Daphne, who was, despite all the flaws of season 6, a useful and well-managed addition to the group. Plenty of people ended up liking Daphne because of her involvement in season 6, despite the questionable decision to bring her back to life at the end of season 5. So that main reason of not being able to handle 7 Winx does not make sense, considering that they have shown on those 2 seasons that they are absolutely capable. And even in season 7, God forbid we give season 7 credit for anything, but even in season 7, for the brief time that Roxy was allowed to be relevant and active within the group, she offered something different that the other girls could not, especially considering by the time you reach season 6 and 7, Roxy is by far the only one who hasn't had a noticeable downfall character-wise, because she wasn't allowed to be a character in the first place. And for those first 3 episodes, Roxy is seen as not exactly a 7th Winx, but at least a useful addition to the group for the time being. So clearly they have shown that even in one of the worst seasons, season 7, they are able to handle more than 6 characters in a group, especially if you're considering that they bring the specialists with them in all those seasons all the time. They're more than capable of handling big groups of diverse characters and handling it not only at all, but also well. So that argument never made any sense to me. But there is one that I do get. What I do understand is those who complain about Roxy's story in its similarity to Bloom, as well as her physical appearance seemingly blending different parts of the other girls, and it can give off an air of unoriginality if you look at it that way. One of the primary complaints I see from the more sensible side of the community is that Roxy looks a lot like Tekna, another very pale-skinned girl with purpley pink hair, which, given there are other hair color options to choose from, it does kind of seem strange that Roxy would be made to appear a lot like one of the existing Winx, who she's not even related to in any way, shape, or form, and has nearly no dialogue with, except for that one cute moment where she's like looking over Tekna's shoulder as she works, but you know, aside from that. Like, I still think it's visually distinct enough. Like, you can look at her and say, that's Roxy. It's only really casual fans get confused and think Roxy is either related to Tekna or is Tekna in, like, another outfit or something technical.
This guy's
Roxy's story. There are obvious similarities. They're both princesses, they both lost their homes. Now, onto the difference comes from them as characters. They can parallel each other without being the same. They both grow up on Earth, Gardenia, with a secret about their parents that they have to come to terms with. But the main difference is that Bloom was excited to be a fairy. She always wanted to be a fairy, and a part of that is it was her dream coming true, going to Magic's and attending Althea, and a lot of her journey in season 1 was finding her footing as a fairy and realizing her dream. And even season 3, it was about becoming a true fairy, as we get to see a glimpse of her insecurities of not being able to achieve the same enchantix as the rest of the girls because of her lack of a home. But Roxy, she actively dislikes magic. She hates it off the get-go. She thinks the Winx are crazy. She runs away. She runs into the black circle. She thinks they're just a crazy polycule or whatever trying to kidnap her. And even then, Roxy doesn't put her faith in the Winx until she is actively being threatened. And even then, she's like, this isn't real. I'm going insane. This is crazy. I'm crazy. Whereas Bloom, when she ran into a similar situation with Stella fighting Nut and his little goblin creatures, she's like curious and all like, oh, whoa, what's going on here? Whereas Roxy's the type who would just turn around and be like, fuck this, I'm out. I don't need this shit in my life, which is what she did. Even after going as far as transforming for the first time and sort of trying to accept her destiny as a fairy, she is still so reluctant, and when her dog is hurt, when her father is kidnapped, she's obviously very pissed, and she tells off Bloom in the most cathartic way possible. And like, I've seen a lot of Roxy haters say that she was annoying for that and that she was being silly and stupid for blaming Bloom, but wouldn't you be pissed at her too? She's acting all high and mighty, saying that you have to make these sacrifices, it's a part of being a fairy. And Roxy just became a fairy like a week ago. She just transformed and she's already dealing with more shit than Bloom had to when she first discovered her powers. Bloom at least had a small transition period before the tricks attacked her, which even then, she had the whole of the Winx to help her. Whereas Roxy, when she first actually fought against the wizards, not being controlled by Nebula, that doesn't really count considering it wasn't her. When she first gets into a fight with Gantlos, sure, it's one-on-one, but this is an incredibly powerful dark wizard who has, okay, they don't say killed, but it's kind of implied, killed many other terrestrial fairies, and Roxy goes one-on-one with him to protect her father because she has no choice. The key difference here is choice. Bloom gets the choice to go with Stella. Sure, she has some pressure, but it's ultimately what she wants. She convinces her parents. She brings them to Magix to show them Althea. Whereas Roxy only gets that Bloom mentality of, oh my god, I love magic, I love fairies, and I want to go to Althea after Nickelodeon gets their hands on her and just wants to push her into the background. But ultimately, Roxy's arc in season 4 about becoming a fairy is less about wanting to become a fairy and fulfill her destiny. It's more about wanting to do what is necessary to survive in order to protect her family and her dog and rediscover her mother, which is the big mystery for her. So clearly there are a lot of similarities, but it's the characters themselves that contrast between Bloom and Roxy. You can say that their stories are similar, but that's almost intentionally so, given how Roxy is portrayed. Because Roxy is actively freaked out by magic, and she only has those moments of, I can do this, I've got magic, I can do this, when she is in active danger. Kind of a lot of pressure to be working under. Which, I mean, if I was in Roxy's position, I also wouldn't be super inclined to wanting to join or enter the magical universe, considering all that, I experienced in the last, month or so. Like, it's pretty unclear, the timeline of, how long since, beginning to end it is that season 4 happens over. So, that's a lot to be crammed in that time, living 15-ish years of your life normally with, nothing going on outside of normal teenage girl shit. And then all of a sudden, it's like, well, what do you know? I have this emo polycule after me and this band of slightly queer-coded women just following me around, telling me what to do, what I should be, and that it doesn't matter if my dog dies or if my father gets kidnapped or threatened because it's for the greater good. Thanks, Bloom. You're officially no longer my favorite. So Roxy's personality, because I see a lot of people who dislike or outright hate Roxy, hate her because she hates magic, because they themselves would be quote-unquote more grateful. And yes, I've actually seen people arguing that the reason why they dislike Roxy so much is because they think she was ungrateful and a brat. Where is the media literacy? Being an ungrateful brat would be Roxy, finding out she's a fairy without any danger, jumping into the magic stuff, oh my god, this is amazing, this is great. And then as soon as things start to get difficult later on, she then pulls the Bloom and tries to abandon magic altogether. Because, that seems to be what Nickelodeon loves making Bloom do for some reason, just having her leave Althea at every inconvenience. I'm ignoring that one time in season 3. That does not count. Was that season 3 or season 2? In one of those seasons, when Bloom left, that was the first time, and it was actually kind of emotional, so, that doesn't count. But seasons 5 and 6, yeah, no. That was just stupid and attention-grabbing, and could have been so much better handled. That is the type of behavior that people try to say Roxy has. They act like she's a snobbish, stuck-up mini Bloom, when those character traits apply to Bloom of the Nickelodeon version. A lot of these stans attribute those things to Roxy just because she was upset at Bloom and at the other girls, and, despite having a weird sort of back and forth with Stella at the very beginning when they first met, with Stella being rude to Roxy at the shop window and Roxy's first impression of Stella being at the fruity music bar and just outright saying, oh my god, you're so full of yourself. They weren't on good terms. They were strangers who immediately didn't like each other. But the second that Roxy saw that Stella was willing to risk her life for her, she immediately was like, I wish I could be as brave as her. I wish that they didn't have to do this for me. She wasn't being stuck up or a brat. She didn't want these girls to protect her because she didn't want them to get hurt protecting her. She wanted their protection because she knew she couldn't protect herself, but she didn't want them, even Stella, who she had really bad impressions of, considering Stella outright insulted her when they first found out she was a fairy, saying that she wasn't anything like a fairy by not being elegant, graceful, beautiful, essentially calling her clumsy, annoying, and ugly, and insulting her pet, Roxy better than me by just telling you off. I would have fucking cut a bitch. But despite all of that, Roxy puts it aside because she recognizes the danger she is in, and she recognizes that Stella, despite everything, is prioritizing Roxy's well-being over her own, showing that she does have empathy, that she does care, and that she wouldn't want hurt to be put onto these girls despite her dislike of them. She's not friendly with them for quite a time, and as a teenager, she's probably the most well-written teenager I have seen in children's media. She isn't just moody or just sweet or bitch or anything like that. One day she is emotional and looking for support, and then the next day she's insecure, upset, and wants nothing to do with the girls, which sure could be a product of bad writing, but as someone who had a pretty turbulent few teen years myself, I know that it can be like that. So Roxy being like that is perfectly reasonable for a stressed out teenage girl who is in an incredibly difficult situation that most of us, despite our love of magic by liking these shows, would hate to be in. Because realistically, I see a lot of those haters say that if they were in Roxy's shoes, they would love to be a fairy. But realistically, if you directly were being threatened, you'd be way more apprehensive than you currently are. The reason you want it so bad is because it's fiction. I know some Winx fans who don't like Roxy or don't care about Roxy, despite me being a Roxy stan. And you know what? I don't care, because everyone has their preferences and their opinions, and they just don't like her vibes. It's as simple as that. They just don't vibe with her design, her powers, or they just don't like season 4 as a whole, and that's perfectly understandable. Hell, sometimes I even dislike season 4, and it's my favorite season. I can understand why people might not like Roxy, and that everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but it's these stans that I cannot deal with, constantly just hating on not only Roxy, but also any Roxy fan, anyone who says anything nice about Roxy. I've seen posts on TikTok, Twitter, and I hate Twitter as much as the next person, but I've seen discussions where someone who's not even like a Roxy fan would include the other girls in like rankings of power or design or their own personal opinion. And it doesn't matter where they place Roxy, it could be at the top, middle, or bottom, or they could just mention the name Roxy. There's gonna be comments of people saying, ew, why is Roxy here? She's not one of the Winx. Oh my god, why would you include her? And shit like that, which annoys me. That they don't even have the decency to just be like, I don't like this character, but I can accept that other people do like her. And that people want her to be included. So that's why I personally do not understand or vibe with Roxy haters. And again, if you dislike Roxy and prefer the other girls, that's perfectly fine. I don't care that much either. I'm making this video because I want to just be able to talk with a community of people about my interests, which, given the absolute state that my voice is in, thank you, selective mutism. It's kind of difficult for me, but if you don't like Roxy and feel offended by anything I said in this video, just know that I have nothing against you as a person. I understand we all have our preferences, and I will not judge you for your preferences. No one should be judging you just because you don't like a cartoon character. This is just about my opinion and me wanting to discuss why some arguments are kind of objectively silly to me. But if you agree with those arguments, if you do see their points, then you're probably just seeing something that I'm not, or you're able to see things from a perspective that I can't. Also, I wouldn't even really touch on like an in-depth analysis of Roxy's role in the story overall and her treatment throughout seasons 5, 6, 7, and her total erasure in seasons 8, and because I'm not really the best person to talk about that. If you enjoyed this video but are looking for more in-depth discussions or just better quality and better established content overall, I recommend that you go to Lisa Favourite's channel or the Unicorn of Wars channel, because they both make incredible Winx content, and I personally love their content a lot. Like, hello, they're amazing. And that's where I sort of got the inspiration to start this Let's Talk series, just picking something to discuss and talking about my thoughts and opinions and experiences as a fan of this media. And that is a wrap for the first installment of the Let's Talk series. Thank you so much for joining me, and feel free to leave suggestions for other installments, other topics you want me to talk about based on compilations I've already made. I have a Gwen Tennyson All Powers analysis video coming soon. Well, not soon, but because it is a lot to write for the script. I've barely passed through half of Alien Force now. It's an analysis, so it's a lot more technical, using a lot more facts from producers, writers, community thoughts, that sort of thing. But if you have any suggestions for other videos for this Let's Talk series, which are mostly unscripted ramblings just about topics that I like, or if you have some ideas for any compilations you want me to post, because I'll still be making those, just they won't be the priority, as I want to make YouTube something. Like, the goal was never to stick with compilations forever. I wanted to use it as sort of the foundation for a community that enjoy the same media I like. Anyway, enough rambling. Can't believe I'm saying this, because I've only ever seen actual YouTubers say this, but if you enjoyed this video, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video to your friends who you think might be interested, or on forums that you think that people need to see this. If you want to share it, all up to you, your own thing, do it, don't. I'd appreciate it, but ultimately, all our own people, I can't control that. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you all have a great day, night, evening, whatever you're doing, and I hope you return. Thank you for being with me through this. It's much appreciated. Bye.